Hello, 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 guys. It's Black and Indigenous American. Today is Monday. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Again, Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Yes, you better recognize. You better recognize. I went to work today. I didn't take today off. I was just talking to my dad the other day, and he was like, I don't even remember there ever being a Columbus Day holiday. And I'm like, yeah, I remember when I was in school back home, we didn't have the day off or whatever like that. But apparently, once I moved out of the area, and long story short, all of a sudden, Columbus Day is on the federal calendar or whatever. Some places celebrate Columbus Day, others don't. As far as holidays, some banks reserve Columbus Day as a holiday, some don't. But today, we are celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day. Okay? That's what we're celebrating. So I just wanted to start this video out with that. Now, of course, the title of this live video does not say anything about Indigenous Peoples Day, but I did want to start out and just to give honor to all of my Indigenous people out there, my brothers and sisters, as well as our ancestors that have walked on in the spirit world, that are still with us every step of the way. Every step of the way. Again, every step of the way. Our Indigenous American ancestors. And I'm specifically focusing on Indigenous American ancestors right about now. Never forget. Never forget. And for those out there who are Indigenous American and or are descendants of Indigenous American people, DNA does not lie. Now, the DNA tests, I mean, give or take, you may come across some that are not as accurate as we hope they to be, right? There's some controversy with DNA testing. But at the end of the day, our DNA, our complete package, does not lie. So I just wanted to put that out there. There was a lot of things going on today. I just found out a couple of other cities and states and counties are reserving Indigenous Peoples Day. It's a big deal, and I'm very proud and happy. Yeah, it's overwhelming. Let's just put it that way. It's definitely overwhelming. For instance, like Virginia's capital, Richmond, has officially recognized Indigenous People Day. And one of my buddies who's not away, she was there and was interviewed and everything like that. So yay, not away, representing. So yeah, that was definitely a great announcement. As well as, I think a proclamation or something went through the governor's office in the state of North Carolina, I believe. I could be wrong. North Carolina has a large Indigenous American population down there as well. So let's see. Trying to make sure I'm giving you guys accurate information. Let's see. Okay, I'm looking at Indigenous Peoples Day. You'll see Department of Administration. There was a proclamation that was filed. And so a lot of my peeps down there was posting it all over social media. Yeah, I guess it is official. Anyway, it's a big deal. Again, some cities, additional cities, have also jumped on the bandwagon. My thing is, be on the right side of history. And when I say right, I mean the highest vibrational side of history. Because the negativity and all that has a purpose as well, right? But at the end of the day, you definitely want to be on the highest vibrational, highest level on that side of history, at least for me. So let's see. I'm also kind of doing a quick Google search here. Just seeing what else is out there. All righty. Okay. Now I'm doing Wikipedia. I don't know if Wikipedia is if that is as current as of right now. I'm not sure. High air elements. He says, do you study animal symbolism? Just asking because I do, and what was a part of Black indigenous culture? Okay. I wouldn't say that I study animal symbolism. Maybe I have a little bit of an intuition about different animals, and I never formally studied animal symbolism. And I was going to get into this in a few minutes, but I'll just go ahead and just share this one book that I just bought. It's called the Dream Bible. And of course, they have symbols of different animals in this book. Also, I just got this book as well. The Secrets of the Universe in 100 Symbols. And of course, there's a lot of animal symbols and things of that nature in this book. So I'll talk a little bit more about these books. I just got them. I haven't even cracked them open. Only thing I cracked open was the Dream Bible, because I get a lot of messages through my dreams. I kind of want a little bit more direction on how to interpret. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, back to Indigenous Peoples Day. It's a big deal, and with all the chaos going on in the world, and how our Indigenous brothers and sisters, and also our ancestors, how they have been treated. In every victory, I'm going to magnify it. Any and every victory. I don't care how small or how big it is. Because again, my Indigenous brothers and sisters and my ancestors in general, they went through hell. And many of our community members, not necessarily tribal, but just across the board, are still going through hell. And so whenever there's a victory or something and I catch wind of it, I am going to blast it in a good way. For real. That's what I'm going to do. Let's see. Yes, it's so many like articles about Indigenous People Day, more so than in years past. So I'm really like kind of flipping through. Like right now, I'm looking at it now. Not the description right now. We have as far observes Indigenous Peoples Day as of this year. Oh, as of this year. Oh, how I love New Mexico. Okay. There's a special place in my heart for New Mexico. Alaska, they observe People Day as of 2017. South Dakota observes Native American Day Oregon Day in place of Columbus Day. Louisiana announced the adoption of Indigenous Peoples Day in September 2019. This is a recent one. Hey, New Orleans. Hey. That crane falling down. This, I believe, was off of Canal Street, not too far from the hotel that I stayed in when I went to New Orleans back in May. My heart goes out to those people, loved ones, and family members and friends, and just goes out to them. So my heart is with you guys. Michigan, as of October the 14th, today, Governor Gretchen Whitmer declared the day to be Indigenous Peoples Day, quote, to uplift our country's indigenous roots, history, and contributions, end quote. Kudos to you. That's Wisconsin. No, that's Michigan. And then Wisconsin, they also are establishing, they established Indigenous Peoples Day via an executive order days before the observance in 2019. So I don't know what day that was, but they've woke up. Let's see. I'm actually juggling two things. I have this computer and I have my laptop, and something came up over here, so give me a second. Okay. I'm gonna have to do that in a second. Okay. So that is Wisconsin. And DC, the nation's capital, by the way, the area, the place of power that should lead by example, right? Washington, D.C., the D.C. Council voted to replace the Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day a few days before the 2019 observance. North Carolina, Governor Roy Cooper has made yearly proclamations designating the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day. So I don't know if that means that North Carolina officially, I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back to that one. Iowa's Governor Kim Reynolds made a proclamation in 2018 designating Columbus Day as Indigenous Peoples Day. Once again, they're using that word proclamation. So when I did a quick search, just making sure I did comprehend what the word proclamation really means, because I know what it means, but then I was like, let me go back and read the definition. So yeah. Let's see. Cities and counties. Note, some of these places observe Indigenous Peoples Days. Others do not observe Columbus Day, and still others partake in alternate observances. Okay. So you have Flagstaff, Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, Berkeley, California, Burbank, California, Long Beach, California, Santa Cruz, California, San Fernando, California, San Luis Obispo, California, Watsonville, California. It's a laundry list of cities. They even have Charlottesville, Virginia on there. Alexandria, Virginia, which I mentioned, I think a couple of videos ago. I mentioned that's pretty recent, actually. Let me see. I don't have to spend too much more time going through all of that. So there you go. All right, so that's that. Hi, Mizak. I see you posted, I don't know if that's a wolf or what that is. Anyway, thanks for watching, if you're still watching. Okay. Okay. Real quick, I need to do something real quick. Okay. All right. One moment, y'all. One thing about live, you know, when things come up, you kind of got to be patient with the person who's doing the video. So give me a second here. Okay. One moment. I'm almost done. Okay. Thanks, guys, for your patience. I appreciate it. Okay. Let's see here. Trying to do this and everything. But anyway, so yes. Mad props to my indigenous people. I see you. I love you. We all love you. The ones who get it. Even those who aren't indigenous American and get it because they come from a people that are recipients of unfair treatment, abuse, or any kind of unlawful, and I'm thinking of universal laws right now, right? There is a cause and effect universal law, okay? What you do to other folks will come right back. Now, it may be in another lifetime because I believe in karma, okay? But yeah. So anyway, what was it? Queen Elizabeth, I believe. Queen Elizabeth. Yeah, Queen Elizabeth the First that gave the order, if I'm not mistaken, of Spain. Queen Elizabeth of Spain gave the order to Columbus to pretty much murder the Taino people, right? Apparently, from what I heard, this chick was 16 years old, given those kind of orders. Really? And so this was kind of brought up on a platform earlier today. And then I was like, without making this a racial thing, because it's really easy to do that these days, I just put a comment in the box and I said, I wonder how many indigenous American, no, I wonder how many incarnations or reincarnations of indigenous Americans people. Let me see if I can reword this because that doesn't make sense to me. I pretty much was saying, how many times was she reincarnated into an indigenous American individual that was murdered, raped, abused, tortured? I wonder how many times she was reincarnated to experience the pain and the destruction with her strike of a pen or stroke of a pen caused. There's this saying that when you do X, Y, and Z and you're reincarnated, there are times when you actually are reincarnated in that particular group that you hated or you abused or you bullied. Makes you wonder, right? How many times did she come back as an indigenous American person and suffered due to her immature decision? Makes you wonder, right? Okay, so anyway, again, happy Indigenous Peoples Day. And thank you all that have been very, very, very much involved in pushing this agenda. And I was one of them, right? I've done my share of rallies and protests and things of that nature being near the DC, right? The DC area. So I had easy access to get downtown and, do what I needed to do. Today, I didn't do anything. I pretty much worked, but at the same time, those that I've seen proudly with their head held high, dancing with their ancestors on this day, bringing honor and respect on this day. There's a couple of people I know that was in Richmond, Virginia today being interviewed, and they were in front of the Columbus statue there. So eventually I'm probably going to touch bases with them and see if they're going to get that statue removed. And when the time comes, I probably will show up in Virginia's state capitol and let my voice be heard. Last time I was there doing something, it has something to do with Atlantic Coast Pipeline. I think this was in 2016. It was the end of July, I remember. It was hot as Hades there. Oh my God, it was hot. And I think it was 100 and some degrees. But you know what? I made it my business. To let the governor and whoever else was watching know that it's not okay. So anyway. Okay, moving on. But before I go, let me read these comments. Air Element says, understood. I've always studied symbolism in general, among a lot of other things, of course, but Black people associate symbolism with white people. Okay, could you expand on that, please? Air Element also says Black Wall Street in Durham, North Carolina was created by Black Aboriginal Indians. A lot of people only know of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I want to know more about that. Air Element, if you could post in the chat box some links or something so I can read up a little bit more on Durham's Black Wall Street, I really would like to be educated about that. Also, even though this conversation is shifting a little bit, what are your thoughts on Tyler Perry open up the studio in Atlanta? Personally, I believe at this point, 2019, Atlanta, ATL, is a modern Black Wall Street. A lot of people go to Hollywood or even New York City trying to live their dream or whatever, and may be rejected for whatever reason. Maybe it's just their skin color. I don't know. Right? Maybe it's because they are part of a racial group that is looked down upon. But now you have Tyler Perry, among others, that have created a platform, regardless of how he created it and everything, because there's a lot of back and forth going on with him dressing up in a woman's, attire and all of that. But at the end of the day, this man created so many jobs for Black folks, and not just Black people, okay? But in all actuality, this man is a job creator, okay? And he opened up his studio in Atlanta. And Atlanta's been booming probably the last 25, 30 years. A lot of people flocked to northern states for better opportunities, because down south, it was like a brick wall, like based on so many obstacles that were created for generations You know, it was just easier to get out of that community. And when I say community, I mean get out of that region of oppression to find their dream somewhere else. And it's almost like there is this, over the past, again, 20, 30 years, roughly, people are migrating to Atlanta, hot Atlanta. And to me, personally, it seems like Atlanta is like the modern Black Wall Street. But anyway, again, I'm getting off topic here. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was, or is, this recent march on the Pentagon this past weekend. And I did not march on the Pentagon this past weekend. However, hello, Auntie Pooh and Sade. Hi, this Auntie Pooh and Sade. This is my sister, y'all guys. If y'all want to go to her YouTube channel, it's called Auntie Pooh and Sade. And Sade is my niece, and she is in the process of auditioning. And that's all I'm going to say, you know, as far as children or whatever. But go check out their page. My sister is somewhat new to YouTube, so be patient with some of her videos that may not necessarily be like professional production or whatever, because this is not even professional, right? So be patient, but she get her stuff out there. And I even told my sister, I was like, we should do a YouTube video together. Like, she'll be on her page, which is Auntie Pooh and Sade, and I'll be on mine, which is Black and Indigenous American. And we could just talk like we typically do on the phone. And oh my God, y'all, you talking about cracking up, right? When no one else is listening, it's just us. So I told her, I was like, you know what? We will probably make a lot of people laugh just having a regular conversation if we just did it on YouTube. So I have yet to forget that, Auntie Pooh and Sade. I want us to make that happen, okay? Now, this is the disclaimer, y'all. This is a disclaimer. My channel, I try to, you know, I try to, how should I put this? Okay, let's just put it this way. Auntie Pooh YouTube channel may not be necessarily politically correct for some people. But if you want a good laugh, then yeah, I think you guys may enjoy it. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. So yeah, the war machine. So it's anti-imperialism war machine. Okay, so I was in DC on Saturday. I didn't participate in the marching on the Pentagon, but they had this conference on Saturday, and my love and I went to that, and he spoke at this summit. He was asked to speak, whatever like that. And it was kind of like a favor for one of his friends that was actually in Philadelphia. So he couldn't go. So in exchange, you know, they needed an indigenous American perspective throughout this summit. So he agreed to go, and we went, and the rest is history. So let's see. It was called Rage Against the War Machine and Imperialism and things of that nature. And for those of you that do not understand what imperialism is, quick Google search, it says a policy of extending a country's power and influence through diplomacy or military force. And so this is linked to Palestinians and how they've been treated in a very abusive way and things of that nature. And how the U.S. and other powerful nations have been very abusive when it comes to their military power. And so that's what, for the most part, that was the discussion of this summit. And let me just give you guys the website here so you can have a little bit more information about it. There's so many issues going on. It's just hard to just be on one page or one issue. And one thing about me, again, as a Libra, I want balance. I want justice. And how dare you take advantage of people and make their lives a living hell just because you have this illusion of power. The only reason why you have the illusion of power is because people have been brainwashed to think that you actually have power. They're brainwashed to think that you actually have power. So, you know, okay, so I'm gonna go and see. There's this musical group called Rage Against the Machine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Rage Against the War Machine. So let me make sure I give you guys that information. Let's see. So again, there was a march on the Pentagon. And let me just give you that. Again, this link, I'm going to put it in the chat box, and eventually I'm going to put it in the description box so you guys can look at it later if you choose to. Hi, Daniel Carrillo. I'm sure I butchered your surname. I apologize. But hi there. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you were asking about the Purépecha people down in Mexico, also known as the Tarascan people. And I apologize because I pretty much haven't been researching the Tarascan people since I received my DNA results some time ago. I think it was 2007? Anyway. And so with everything else going on in life, that has been not at the top of my list right now in life of things that I need to take care of. And you know, sometimes I actually go back and listen to my old or watch my old videos just to see, because some people still respond to those old videos and asking me questions. I'm like, it's been so long since I really was like researching about the Tarascan people or the Purépecha people or the Tarascan people. But it's a beautiful thing. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. The indigenous population, indigenous people from Mexico, they are linked to their indigenous culture, but they just have that Mexican title or identity on paper, right? A lot of those people are indigenous to the country of Mexico. And so when I announced that that was a strong indigenous American, yes, indigenous Americans are also in other countries on the Western Hemisphere, not just the United States. And some people just can't get that through their head, right? When they think of indigenous American people or Native Americans, they only think about the 50 states of the United States, right? But there are indigenous American people all and up and through the Western Hemisphere, right? That's why they're considered indigenous Americans, right? So I say all of this because when I announced that I was connected to indigenous Mexicans, in particular the Purépecha people also known as the Tarascan people. All the hating kind of like halted for a second. And I got all of the responses and comments back that were very uplifting, almost like welcome to the family. And I'm like, this is totally different. Like, I don't get it. So I'm connected to Mexicans, right? Indigenous and Mexicans. And it's like, as far as social media, I got nothing but love. But before the DNA results, and I pretty much was, sharing my Indigenous American connection, as well as my African, Black, or whatever like that, was getting so much hate, right? Because a lot of people in their head, they have been brainwashed that if a Black or a seemingly Black person says they have Native American, Indigenous American, and in some cases, some people say Indian blood in their family, that they're lying. Oh, you're just covering up that, whatever, that white race blood in your family or whatever. You're just covering it up because you can't pass for white or something. So you don't want to be Black. You just want to, put a bow on it. And that's why you're trying to take our Native American identity, which is a bunch of crap. But anyway, so again, the link I just put in the box called Rage Against the War Machine. Again, I don't have much else to say about that. I just wanted to share that I did participate in the summit, not the march. The march was on Friday. The summit was Saturday. And I was just there as a support system, also to be a representative of Indigenous American people, making sure Indigenous American people had a voice at the table. Not just Black folks, because sometimes my Black brothers and sisters, or African American brothers and sisters, or however way you want to, identify it, sometimes we can be so caught up in our own struggles that we sometimes forget there are other people throughout this world that have struggled as well, that don't look like you or don't look like me. And sometimes it's hard for someone to acknowledge that. So of course we have Black folks, a couple of people that were talking about all the issues, right? But there was no solutions, right? It's almost like regurgitating what we already know. We already know all this. What's the solution, right? So that was, a Black American inner city perspective. And so again, my love, he was a representative of the Indigenous American perspective when it comes to imperialism. And that's all I got to say about that. And again, I was there as a support system, but I wasn't like walking around with picket signs and everything like that. I mean, it's an issue, right? But sometimes you kind of have to, because if you don't set boundaries, you will always be overwhelmed by so much going on in the world. And so you want to acknowledge what's going on, but you have to pick your battles, right? So anyway, that was, again, the Rage Against the War Machine. And that was a march from the Pentagon this past Friday. Okay. You might like this, to my sister, Auntie Pooh and Sade. You may like this, but I'm shifting gears now, guys. I came across this one video, this one YouTuber. And let me see if I can find her. She was showing people how to make a money jar or an abundance jar. You know where I'm going with this? Okay. So let me make sure. Yeah, her name is Shanetta Divine Tarot. And I looked at her video, let's see, the other day. And she shared how she makes her money jar. So I was like, okay, why not? Let me get it a go. So anyway, I'm pasting right now the link to that YouTube video of how to create a money jar. So that's what I did on the full moon, by the way. Okay. Sunday, which Sunday is a day, it can be a day of abundance as well. If you follow some belief systems, like on Sunday, the colors gold and yellow, the sun, and you have Monday, and then whatever the colors are, Tuesday, whatever the colors are, Wednesday, whatever the colors are, Thursday, the color is green for finance, right? And and it goes on and on and on. So like each day has a color that's associated with something. But yes, Sunday is connected to abundance. And sometimes you can burn a gold candle or a white candle. When it comes to the candles and all that, you guys can do a quick search to figure all that out. But I chose Sunday because Sunday is linked to abundance and, the sun and all that. And also it was the full moon. And what better day could I make a money jar? Full moon and it's a Sunday. So anyway, the link is in the description box. And so this is my money jar. And some of the stuff that some of the things that she said you should put in the jar, whatever. I think a few of them I missed. And one thing I did miss was the last thing. I forgot the last thing. So I'm kind of going to do it now. The last thing is to put a candle on top of your jar. And then you're supposed to pretty much speak into existence what your goal is, whatever. And my goal is cash flow, passive income, magnet. Okay. So you're supposed to shake it up and you're supposed to, repeat or whatever that you put in this jar. And for instance, I put, I am a philanthropy, right? I am empowerment, because I want to be empowerment for other people, not only for myself, but for other people. And sometimes you can talk all day, but when you have real impact is when you could actually uplift someone financially, right? So if you can do that, people pay attention, right? You already know, Auntie Pooh, right? You already know. Folks wake up when you can help them financially. You can talk all day till you blue in the face, trying to give them advice and all that, but they don't hear nothing unless you got some coins. So I want to be able to be a philanthropist. I also want to be able to empower people, but you have to, I repeat, you have to work on yourself first. Because you know how sometimes you can have advice for everybody under the sun, but then they're looking at you like, well, why ain't you using your own advice? Why aren't you, And it's I get it, because usually if you can see results, then you pay attention to whatever that person is saying. So I say all of this because, again, this is my money jar. This is not only for me. This is for everyone I love and care for, and those that may come into my life later that I can influence and help them raise their vibrations and all that. But again, you can talk all day, but until people see results, whatever you're doing in your life and in your household, it is what it is. Going one ear and out the other, one ear and out the other. So anyway, the last step that I did do was burning a candle on top of your money jar and let it burn out. Apparently you don't blow it out or whatever like that. So that's the part that I forgot. And see, this tea light candle was actually in a bag of sage. Like it had the dirt from sage or the residue from sage that I pretty much used up. This was the only thing that was left in the bag. So it has little pieces of residue of sage on it, which may or may not do anything or help or whatever. But anyway, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually light up this candle. And while I continue with this video, I'm going to just let it burn. And, you know, to myself, I'm going to just making sure I keep burning because it kind of went down a little bit. Okay. Yeah, it's burning. To myself, I'm going to repeat in my head, because I need to talk to you guys. In my head, I'm going to keep repeating what I put in the jar. And again, this is not all about me. This is uplifting other people, helping them raise their vibration, right? But a lot of times you need the cash flow in order for, you know, you to reach more people. Let's just put it that way. So anyway, that's my money jar. You can check out her YouTube channel. It's called Shanetta's Divine Tarot. I think she's pretty good. I've seen a few of her videos, and I think she's on point. Like, there was at least 3 or 4 videos that I watched, and she pretty much, and this wasn't a consultation or anything like that, consultation. This was just a pick a card YouTube video. Like, I've never contacted her for any, you know, counseling or anything like that. This girl read me without even knowing it. I was like, that is so me. So anyway, check her out, subscribe, hit that bell or whatever, because I think she's doing really great work, and I believe she will be an asset to a lot of people who are trying to find themselves and trying to, you know, raise their vibrations and things of that nature. And her tool for doing that is tarot. And I'm sure other things too, but this is the platform that she's using with YouTube. She's using her tarot gifts. Okay. So anyway, that was a little bit for you, Auntie Pooh. Oh, I was just thinking about New Orleans. We went up in that shop how many times? 2, 3 times? And I didn't get anything out of there, but this is do-it-yourself type stuff versus somebody else energy on it. You know what I mean? This is my energy. You know, this is something that I create. And I think a lot of times you would get more results or things of that nature is when it's your energy versus going to a shop and somebody else's stuff is on an item that you just bought. And that's just me, okay? That's just me. The do-it-yourself stuff, I think, because it's your energy. Let's just put it that way. It's you, and what the goal is to, again, raise your vibration and and not only raise your own, but you raising other people up along the way. And yes, some people, they're destructive when they do things, but I prefer the higher road. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, now to my books. Now, this is a disclaimer. I have yet to read these books, okay? 3 out of 4 books are actually reference guides or whatever, like a textbook almost. And then 1 book is an actual book that is not a textbook. Let's just put it that way. It's probably one of those books that's easy to kind of like flow with, because it's like a story versus a reference book when you just flip it through when you need to look up something. So I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but this one is called the Dream Bible. And again, I just got this from Barnes and Noble. And this was about $15. Okay. I think it was pretty good. I mean, one thing about this, I guess you can call it a reference book, is that you know how sometimes if you Google real quick, what does something mean in your dream, like, you know, you flying or something like that. You have so many different interpretations of what it meant, right? I think this book will have you questioning, like, what do you think that meant? What did you think that meant, right? Versus somebody else telling you what it means. Go within and ask your higher self, as some people call it, highest divinity, creator, God, whatever label you want to put on it, right? And you ask, what did it mean for you? Your experience, not somebody else's, but yours. What did it mean for you? And so this book actually questions, just throws out questions for you. So, so you can kind of sit back and think. And one thing about meditation that I've learned for me is that many times the answers are within. You should just have to be quiet. And you have to, again, when you meditate, you're focusing on pleasant things in some cases, or nothing, right? But you know, sometimes you get that message. It's not necessarily audibly. Some people can hear audible, you know, messages, but it could just be a thought that will pop in your head that you wouldn't even typically think about. Like, where did that come from? That was a message for you. That was a clue for you. And so a book like this, I think if you go into meditation or something like that, and then, you know, maybe ask yourself, you know, some of these things, then, you know, maybe in a dream, or again, you may, a thought may pop up in your head that you typically wouldn't think about. That in of itself is messages for you. Again, it may not necessarily be for the next person, but that's for you. That's your walk. That's your path. And so I do like this book. It doesn't tell you exactly what the meaning of every little thing, but it gets you to question what it means for you. So you know, it could be anything, like the cutting of hair, right? Let's see. I just looked that up. I had a dream about someone who cut their hair. Not in the dream, but in the dream, I knew this person had cut their hair because in real life, real time, the hair is very long. And so in my dream, the hair was cut very short. So I shared this bit of information from this dream book to her because I kind of, to me, it was almost like a rebirth in the dream. It wasn't like she was upset or scared or anything like that. It wasn't like someone had died, because in some cultures, when people shave their head, it symbolizes that someone has passed away. But for in that dream with her, it was almost like an empowerment type thing for her. So anyway, in this book, real quick, it says hair as a symbol. Hair represents energy and fertility, natural growth, and crowning glory. Priests of many religions once shaved off the hair on their heads as a sign that they had renounced earthly desires. In statues of Buddha, the top knot of hair symbolizes wisdom and light. So, you know, they got the knot, the hair up in a knot, you know. One of the 5 symbols of faith are silks, that's S-I-K-H-S, is Kesh, K-E-S-H, or uncut hair. In the Hindu tradition, hair is a symbol of the soul because it grows out of the head, the place of consciousness. It grows again after it is cut and continues to grow after death. Shaven heads also represent strength, mimicking the shaved heads of new army recruits or some right-wing extremists. Masi, I think that's how you pronounce it, Masai, mother, shaves her warrior son's head at adolescence as he undertakes the rite of passage that takes him from boyhood to manhood. Shaving the face is a Western rite. That's R-I-T-E. This can be seen in a gift of first shaving kit from father to son. In sitting Shiva or mourning during the 7 days following a death, Jewish men do not shave. So again, in this book, there's a section that's called Connections. This is where it asks questions. It says, could your dream of a vision to a hairdresser indicate a desire for a change of image? Another question. If you dream, well, not question, but a comment. If you dream that you are losing your hair, you could be worried about a loss of authority. So again, this book, again, doesn't tell you exactly what it means. It just, you need to ask yourself what it means. So this book helps you ponder what it could be, right? So it makes you dig a little deeper. They're not just giving you the information. Daniel, you said, and I'm sorry, I didn't comment back to you as soon as you posted, so my apologies. You said, I just recently received a message from a woman who I recognized from when I was 3 or 4. She told me I was her youngest sibling of 5. So turns out my family on my mother's side are Tarascan. Okay. And the thing is, Tarascan, again, these are Indigenous American Mexicans, okay? Indigenous Mexicans. Indigenous people from Mexico, okay? For those that don't know what a Tarascan or a Parapecha person is. And I may be butchering Parapecha because I think somebody corrected me before. So I apologize in advance. But they have their own language. I think some may speak Spanish or whatever, but their Indigenous American language is still intact. And telling y'all, that is a beautiful thing. That is so beautiful that all these generations after colonization and everything, and you have an Indigenous American population that still has their indigenous language fluent. Not just learning it as an adult down the road, you know, after you turn 30 years old and then you learning it, you know, after you already had picked up on the colonist, colonial or whatever language, right? Give me 1 second, guys. I got to type this into this computer. 82, 3, 87. I'm juggling a couple of things here, so okay. Let me make sure I got that in. I'm like uploading another video for another account. Ain't got nothing to do with this account. Okay, so anyway, that's the Dream Bible. Okay, again, I got this from Barnes and Noble bookstore. It was $15, and you may find this book helpful. So you got, you know, different things here when you dream about different stuff. And again, it gives you ideas of what to think about and how to kind of dissect. But again, this is very beginners, very beginners. Okay, I got to do something with that. Okay, so the next book, The Alchemist. Yes, alchemy, guys. The 25th anniversary edition. Again, I got this from Barnes and Noble. This is definitely a new adventure, I should say. I'm just learning about alchemy this past year, by the way. because it has a name attached to it. Elements of alchemy I learned over the years, but there was no name on it. This is science. This is what alchemy is. It's pretty much science. And a lot of famous people dibble and dabble in alchemy. And again, you have a high vibrational aspect of it, and you have a low vibrational aspect of it. Just like anything that you partake in or believe in or respect or whatever like that, there's a balance there, guys. And that's the goal. The goal is to find that balance, right? Not too destructive, not too cookie cutter. Everything's wonderful and great. Kumbaya. It needs to be balanced. And with this form of science, balance is key, as well as like the universal laws. You can find it in alchemy. And I haven't started reading it yet. Again, these books I'm telling you about now, I have yet to read yet. Okay. But I think this is going to probably be a quick read. It's definitely not a reference book. It's more like it's almost like a novel. I mean, just by flipping through it, it's almost like it's written like a novel. And on the back of this book, it says, quote, "To realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation," end quote, from The Alchemist. So again, this is pretty much science. You have universal laws all up and through alchemy. And the goal is to live your life in balance. And also the goal is to raise your vibration, so you are not stuck in a low dimension. And again, dimensions and all that, that is another topic of discussion. I'm just learning all this right now in this world, right now, this reality that we're living in is considered the third dimension, okay? And it goes up from there. You have the first dimension and second dimension. I think the second dimension is the second dimension will be a place where people who pass on that didn't get it, it's almost like it's their hell. When I said their hell, whatever their hell is in this world right now, if they don't get it, if they don't raise their vibrations, if they don't balance their lives, and they stayed in a low vibration most of their lives, right? They didn't balance it out. They go to the second dimension until something clicks where they're able to get out of that. And again, this is all new for me on a surfacey level. And so I say with the dimensions and everything, I say, you know, do your own research, whatever like that. Right now, we're on the third dimension. When you get up to the, I think, 8th or 9th dimension is when you go to the nothing place or something like that. That's where what we would consider God, creator, all in all, omega, alpha, all these different names or characteristics of the one or the highest divinity. That is the location that energy dwells in. It's the nothing place or whatever. That is the highest dimension. And again, it probably goes even higher from what I'm learning, right? You have the 9th dimension, like I said, and I believe it probably will go even higher than that. So again, this whole dimension thing, I'm still learning it. But just so you know, in this life right now, we're living, we're breathing, we're loving, we're crying, you know, we are living in this reality, right? This is the third dimension. So next book, Kabbalah for Dummies. Kabbalah for Dummies. See how ancient Jewish mystical traditions and rituals can transform your life. It's a reference book. You know, the Kabbalah is not easy to comprehend at all. It takes time to really digest the content. And so, I mean, I kind of dibbled and dabbled in Kabbalah over the years because of the mystical aspect of it. Plus, I lean more towards Messianic Jewish belief system. Now I'm not so much over there, but I definitely have been very interested in learning Kabbalah. And many people who are learning more about chakras and things of even the universal laws and things of that nature, you know, like the law of attraction, which is one of many universal laws, by the way. That's not the only universal law, but many people have been introduced not too long ago, including myself, to the law of attraction, which again is one of several universal laws. So if you can comprehend and digest Kabbalah, you got alchemy in there, which is science. You have I don't remember the name of it, but you have a little of everything that you could dissect in other walks if you can just master Kabbalah. If you could just do that, you're onto something. But anyway, it's funny because my Facebook page, I changed it from my regular name, you know, just for privacy purposes, to my initials, and then it's Bina Atara, right? Bina is part of the Sephras. That's what they call them, Sephras. There we go. That may not be clear enough for you guys, but Bina is right over here. And then this is, Bina is more like understanding and heart, okay? And then the Sephra, as they call it, the circle on the opposite side is Chakman, which is wisdom and brain. When them two come together is Keter, which is at the very top, which is a crown, primary will. And with Kabbalah, Keter is God, pretty much. Bina is more like goddess, and Chakman is more like, you know, small god, little g, God. But when you have God and goddess together, right, then you have Keter. Because I believe that God is not just masculine, patriarch, right? Patriarch, right? Many of us were taught to believe there's God, masculine father, right? Not so much the mother. But in Kabbalah, there's this blend of both the goddess and God that will make the highest divinity, you know, the highest vibration entity, right? Which in my mind, that's just pretty much God, the creator. But remember, there are several little g gods, several gods. There's also demigods. Look up demigods. But the one I'm talking about is a combination of goddess, Bina, and Chakman, God, masculine. So masculine and feminine, right? So in the middle of this chart right here, that's really where we want to be. That's the balance in the middle right here. This is what we really want to be. We don't want to be too far on the left or too far on the right. We want that balance, right? Remember I said destruction, right? Destructive, low vibration, and then building up, high vibration. You need to meet in the middle, right? Need to meet in the middle. Can't be all destructive. Can't be all, kumbaya, let's hold hands. It has to be in the middle. Balance. Balance, people. We need to learn how to balance. Sometimes we don't want to say no. And I'm thinking of this right now. But then we get walked over because you don't know how to say no. No, not necessarily saying no to be mean, but saying no because there's no balance. It can't always be yes all the time. You gotta balance it out. Because at the end of the day, if you keep saying no all the time, that's not necessarily a good thing either. It's not. There needs to be balance. Yes, you can have $5, but don't ask me for no more $5. You're not gonna keep coming to me asking me for $5. Like, let's say somebody is panhandling or whatever. You see them all the time, every day. Yeah, I may give them $5 here and there, but I'm not going to give them $5 every single day. No, that's not balance. No. I recognize that you're homeless, and I'm going to give you $5 every so often, but I'm not going to give you $5 every day. That is imbalance. Imbalance. So there, So anyway, Kabbalah, like I said, it's not light reading. It's not light reading at all. But I love to learn. I definitely love to learn. And why not? I believe that you can learn something, regardless of the belief system, regardless of this or that. You can always learn something from someone else or some other ideology or philosophy. You can learn something. It may not register initially, or it may not stick because it's not for you, right? But you can learn something. You can understand what's going over there on that side. And if it's not for you, it's okay. It is all right. But at least you attempted to learn, So anyway, in the back of this book, it says, how to live life like a Kabbalist. The big secret of Kabbalah, what Kabbalah is and is not, the importance of karma and reincarnation, the contributions of great Kabbalists, okay? So it says, understand the spiritual and ethical teachings of the practice. Curious about Kabbalah? This friendly, plain English guide clears up the common misconceptions about this mystical tradition, showing you how to incorporate its wisdom into your daily life. You'll explore the history of Kabbalah and its major texts, understand the mystical tree of life. And that's what we were looking at, guys. When I was showing you that chart, that's considered the tree of life, okay? Examine Kabbalah controversies and conflicts and see how Kabbalists grow closer to God. So this author, his name is Arthur Kurzweil, that's Kurzweil, is known as America's foremost Jewish genealogist. The author, editor of several books, he lectures extensively on the subjects of Judaica, that's Judaica, magic, and mysticism. And so that caught my attention. So like I said, I've been kind of dabbling, trying to learn Kabbalah. Like I said, my Facebook screen name or username or whatever has my initials in it, as well as Bina, B-I-N-A, Atara. Atara means queen. No, it means crown. So what I did was I took my name, my real name, and I took my real name and I looked up the meaning, because you can go to those name meaning websites to see what your name means or whatever. Not saying that my name was picked based on the meaning. It just, at the time, it sounded good. You know, a lot of parents, they name their kids based on the way the name sounds, if it has a good ring to it. Well, apparently, my first name means counselor, like advisor. And then my middle name means royalty, crown. Okay. Again, that wasn't on purpose. My name was because it sounded good, it had a good ring to it or whatever. But when I went back and I looked up what my name means in the name meaning websites or whatever, that's what it meant. So again, Bina, I chose that for my social platform, Facebook, because when I glanced at Kabbalah and I looked at the Sephiras, that's what they call them, circles, right? Call them Sephiras. I saw understanding and heart. And I was like, oh, I like that Bina. Then I found out later that Bina signifies a destructive emotional aspect of characteristics or whatever. And so instead of Bina, you really want to be at Da'at, D-A-A-T, in the middle. You want to have the knowledge, intellect, will, which is the lower brain. So you don't want to be all about Bina, because then you're going to be all emotional, in your feelings all the time, and destructive. So even though that was a Facebook page name, right? Just be careful for you new parents out there, or soon-to-be parents. Just be aware the names do attach to your children as far as who they will eventually be, right? And you can always change your name, obviously. So anyway, that is Kabbalah for Dummies. And again, this is a reference book, and it's almost like a textbook. So I may take one chapter at a time and just sit there and marinate on it. Like if you're in regular school, you're not going to go through the textbook in one day, right? You're going to, have your assignments and have homework and all that to get through your 9th grade or 10th grade year or your senior year, right? And I have to treat it that way, because with me in books, I would much rather knock it out in like within a week. But that kind of material, that kind of information, you really have to not be distracted by other ideologies and just focus on that, okay? Next book, final book that I got at Barnes & Noble is The Secrets of the Universe in 100 Symbols. And so one thing about when we watch TV, go to the movies, see ads and billboards and things of that nature, we unknowingly are being programmed based on a lot of these symbols that we see. And half the time we don't even know what the symbols are unless you study symbols, unless you understand what certain things mean. Okay? Let's see. Again, I'm juggling 2 computers here, so give me a moment. Okay, I already did that. Okay, I might have to do that again. All right, whatever. So anyway, so you know how you have some people, they have these symbols. They use their hands, their fingers, different symbols. And some people are very impressionable And if there's someone cool that they look up to that's, you know, on TV or whatever, then they'll mimic the hand gestures, but they really don't know what it means. I have also been like that. Like you'll throw up a sign or whatever because somebody famous did it, and you really don't know what you're throwing up, right? And I'm not talking about vomit. I'm not talking about vomiting. I'm talking about the signs that you throw up or whatever. You don't know what you're doing half the time. Some people do, but the majority don't. Like if you go to a concert that has something to do with Jay-Z, I'm thinking of him right now, and he has them throw up the Rockefeller or whatever sign. That's his thing. And everybody in the crowd does the same thing. Well, it's more to that than just having a good time at a concert. There's a lot of programming going on, good, bad, or in between. It's just a lot of programming going on. So a book like this, there's this YouTuber that I've kind of been looking at. I don't agree with everything that she says. So that's a disclaimer. I don't really agree with everything she says. But I came across her YouTube channel. Her name is Ashera Star Goddess, Ashera. And she was talking about this. And this caught my attention. So when I saw that, when I was looking, because some things, whatever you're watching on YouTube or anything really, the computer program or whatever remembers what you watched the last time. And so it would suggest different types of videos. And so that particular video about this book that she was promoting or talking about or whatever, I said, you know what? I think I kind of want to get that book. And plus it was only like pretty much $13 at Barnes and Noble. That's it. And it's a nice size hardcover book. And again, I have yet to look through all of this, but there's symbols and signs everywhere, y'all. In the sky, carvings, even some of the paintings of Jesus, how he sits in a very almost like a Eastern religious kind of a stance about him in some of his paintings of him, and how he will hold his hand a certain way, his fingers a certain way. That's very symbolic, y'all. That's very symbolic. I'm sitting here flipping through a couple of things here. You know, when I went to New Mexico, I had the honor of seeing a lot of these symbols on the rocks. And they were there for thousands of years, y'all. Thousands of years. Some people believe everybody came from Africa. Now, I honestly don't believe everybody came from Africa. I think some people were just created in whatever region that they live in now. Like their ancestors were created there. And a lot of times they can date back, like thousands of years based on science or whatever to figure out how long those symbols were there or whatever. Just like a tree with the ring of a tree, however many rings are around, when you cut a tree down and you see the tree trunk or whatever, that gives you an idea how old that tree is. And usually a tree trunk, if it's bigger and wider, is older, right? So anyway, but yeah, you have symbols everywhere. And as far as like, again, I'm thinking of New Mexico right now and UFO sightings and things of that nature. I think a lot of people now are recognizing that a lot of those indigenous ancient people, when they pass down their stories and legends and things of that nature by word of mouth and also by hand paintings, carvings in the rocks and things of that nature. And then they're finding out that there is a connection between that and science and how it's kind of coming together, you know. So let's see here. And again, I believe you should not overlook a sign or a symbol because it means something in a particular culture. Because it's not always the case. Like there could be one particular symbol that was hijacked by a low vibrational group of people. And so here on out, everyone sees that symbol as linked to that low vibrational energy group of people. When in actuality, that symbol was not negative at all. So sometimes if you see a symbol in today's time, you can't always assume that that symbol it has the same meaning in different time frames, different cultures, different walks of life and ideologies and philosophies and religion and all that. What's bad here may be the key to unlock the gates of knowledge somewhere else. Okay, air element, I apologize for just reading your comment now. Right now, I'm going to read comments. You said there's a guy named Dane Calloway. He was one of the many people that did a documentary of the lesser known Black Wall Street in Durham, North Carolina, before the more well-known Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay, I'm going to look up Dane Calloway. I'm going to look that up. Thank you for dropping that knowledge. I appreciate it, air element. Hi, sweet. How are you doing? Hello, BNIA. Just tuning in. Thanks for tuning in, sweet. I appreciate you tuning in on a Monday. I typically don't have my videos on Mondays, so I'm thankful that you are chiming in and watching and hope all is well with you because for the most part, you are one of my subscribers that I see quite a bit commenting. So I appreciate you and thank you so much. Air Element says earlier in this live chat video where I've stated animal symbolism is a part of Black indigenous culture. I wanted to add that Black people associate symbolism with evil and white people culture, but it's ours. Okay. Give me an example, Air Element, of something negative that Black people associate with evil and white people culture. I can think of a couple of things. Like right now, I could think of a couple of things that I think what you're talking about. When we see it, we think it's evil. And I guess one thing would be the Pentagon. When you see someone wearing a pentagon, am I saying that right? Pentagon. Not Pentagon. What is it? I said Pentagon. No, not Pentagon. Make sure I'm saying this right, guys. Let's see. Pentagram. Not Pentagon, it's pentagram. Yeah, that's one symbol among many that coming from a Christian background and a bunch of Black folks that I grew up around and all that in the church. When I said the church, I mean Southern Baptist. Yeah, a pentagram, and yeah, they're gonna be pulling out their crosses and that Bible just like this, throwing holy water on you or whatever like that. So I think that might be what you're talking about as a symbol that is automatically seen as evil, or whatever, white people. Because if I'm not mistaken, the pentagram is associated with Wicca, and Wicca is a earth-based religion that is linked to Europe somewhere, right? Let me just make sure I'm giving you guys accurate information. So Wicca, a predominantly Western movement whose followers practice witchcraft and nature worship and who see it as a religion based on pre-Christian traditions of Northern and Western Europe. Okay, that's based on the Britannica website, Britannica.com. According to Wikipedia, which one thing about Wikipedia, sometimes their definitions or explanations can be off a little bit. But it says Wicca, also termed pagan witchcraft, is a modern pagan religion. Scholars of religion categorize it as both a new religious movement and as part of the occultist stream of Western esotericism. I probably said that wrong. It was developed in England during the first half of the 20th century. So that's just like the 1900s. So not too long ago. And was introduced to the public in 1954 by Gerald Gardner, a retired British civil servant. Wicca draws upon a diverse set of ancient pagan and 20th century Hermetic motifs for its theological structure and ritual practice. That's all I'm going to read. But from what I gather, it's linked to Europe. Let's see. And then Auntie Pooh say, preach. Auntie Pooh, guys, if you guys just came in and you didn't catch what I said, Auntie Pooh and Sade, that's the YouTube channel of my one of my sisters. So she's still learning this whole YouTube thing. But that's my sister, my real blood sister. Okay. Mom and daddy the same, blood sister. So that's Auntie Pooh and Sade. You guys can check her out whenever you would like or whatever. So that's who that is. Sweet says, yes, I do believe that too. Daniel says, she's an awesome teacher. I love listening to her. Are you talking about me? Or are you talking about Ashera Star Goddess? Because I mentioned her a few moments ago. Sweet says, I had my niece here. Her mom came and got her. Thanks for support and nice comment. Okay, cool. And then Auntie Pooh says, laugh out loud. Thanks. I think you meant to say love you too instead of lice you too. So anyway. So yes, this book, again, The Secrets of the Universe in 100 Symbols. And for instance, like a dollar bill has so many symbols. So many symbols. If you look at a dollar, a $1 bill, it has so many symbols. So just know that everything is not face value. You have to, if you choose to and you want to understand more than what you already know, what you think you know, you have to take the time to be receptive to information that you're not necessarily comfortable with, or you weren't raised up learning in your household or your community. It was frowned upon, or you were fed fear to keep you from learning more about yourself. Okay. Yeah, that's what I got to say about that. So I'm thankful that I did come across that YouTuber's video Again, this is almost like a picture book, and it's in color. To me, it's very captivating. Um, it really catches my attention. I'm thinking about my mama right now. Yes, my mama. My mother loves skulls. She's been like really into skulls probably the past 5 years and some change. And maybe she always did like skulls, but she's been very vocal about it and very open about the idea of skulls, right? And I was just looking at this one page about skulls. And a symbol of death in numerous civilizations throughout the world, which that's obvious, a skull is a symbol of death. With this picture here that I just showed you guys, the caption says, the Aztecs displayed the skulls of the conquered on rats, such as this Tzompantli, that's Tzompantli, at Templo Mayor, Tenochtitlan, Mexico. I know I tore that all the way up, so I'm going to spell it. Tenochtitlan, Mexico, to show off their warring powers. Okay. This other picture right here that I showed you guys, that says the Mexican Day of the Dead is celebrated with totem skeletons and skulls, and offerings are made to family ancestors. This reminds me of that cartoon called, let me make sure I get this right, Coco, I believe. I saw that little cute movie probably 9 to 6 months ago. Yeah, it was called Coco. And it came out in 2017. It's an American 3D computer animated fantasy film produced by Pixar Animation Studios and released by Walt Disney Pictures. So Disney pretty much owns, Pixar Animation Studios. And one thing about animation, it's not necessarily like the cartoons I grew up on, but the animation part of it is computerized, Anyway, it says based on an original idea by Lee Unkrich, that's Unkrich. It is directed by him and co-directed by Adrian Molina. The film's voice cast stars Anthony Gonzalez, and it's just a bunch of people's names. I'm not going to read it. The story follows a 12-year-old boy named Miguel, who is accidentally transported to the land of the dead, where he seeks the help of his deceased musician, great-great-grandfather, to return him to his family among the living and to reverse his family's ban on music. The concept for Coco is inspired by the Mexican Day of the Dead holiday. The film was scripted by Molina and Matthew Aldrich, that's Aldrich, from a story by Unkrich, Jason Katz, Aldrich, and Molina. Pixar began developing the animation in 2016. Unkrich and some of the film's crew visited Mexico for research. So let me stop right there. Before you start dabbling in other people's culture and belief systems, whatever like that, that's the first step. You do your research. And not just looking it up in a book, but you actually go to the people and you do your research with them. Because a lot of history is passed down orally. You're not necessarily going to find it in the book. And that's the problem with a lot of people. They think just because something's not written in a book by a certain group of elite people, that does not necessarily mean that it never existed or it's inferior to what they have to say about it. No, you go down and you speak to the people and they tell you how it gets down. So anyway, composer Michael Giacchino, who had worked on prior Pixar animated features, composed the score, meaning the soundtrack, the adventurous sounds of the movie, right? And which was very, very good. I like that. Coco is the first film with a 9-figure budget to feature an all Latino principal cast with a cost of $175 million. Okay. So anyway, long story short, this was based on a belief system that you're supposed to honor your ancestors. Okay. So real quick, the skull is a symbol of death throughout many civilizations and religions. Among the Mesoamerican, meaning indigenous populations south of the border, the U.S. border, pretty much. Civilizations, large numbers of skulls were exhibited on a tampanti or skull rack, which was used for public displays of human skulls, commonly of war or sacrificial victims. It was made up of the scaffold-like structure of wooden poles, and heads and skulls were placed on the zampanti after holes had been drilled through the skull. Most skull racks date from around 600 to 1250. Let me kind of glance over here. The symbol of the skull still appears in many forms on the Day of the Dead, a Mexican celebration. The holiday focuses on gatherings of family and friends to pray for and remember those who have died. Skull masks and skeletons are popular, as are confections such as sugar or chocolate skulls, which are inscribed with the name of the recipient on the forehead. Sugar skulls can be given as gifts to both the living and the dead. And in Hinduism, this is another belief system, okay, guys? Hinduism, the goddess of death, Kali, and I've heard about Kali, but I really haven't studied Kali, but I've been hearing a lot about Kali, K-A-L-I, is often depicted wearing a garland of skulls. One Hindu myth relates how she leaped out of Durga's, that's D-U-R-G-A, Durga's forehead, carrying a skull-topped staff decorated with a necklace of skulls and clad in a tiger's skin. She soon devoured the clones of the demon Raktabija, that's R-A-K-T-A-B-I-J-A, sucked the blood from the leader, then danced on the field of battle, stepping on the corpses of the slain. In the 20th century, Germany, the Nazi SS, incorporated the skull into the uniforms of its concentration camp guards. So what the Nazis did is they pretty much, I'm trying to think of the word I said earlier. And it goes on and on and on. So every culture, every group of people, they use certain things, and it may mean something else in another belief system. But I'm excited about this book. I really am. And so far, I am really liking it. And okay. Yeah, I remember, yeah. See, one of my best friends, she is Indian, meaning Indian. And I remember when I went to her parents' house, they're Hindus, okay? They practice Hinduism. And me coming from a Christian background, I was like, what in the world is this? And over the years, I've learned to embrace other people's belief systems. I may not agree 100% of the time, but I can learn something from their beliefs or whatever. But I do remember seeing some of these Hindu deities, aka gods and goddesses. I saw like 2 or 3 of them displayed on the wall in their house. One thing I heard a lot about was Krishna. Krishna. That was one god that that I heard a lot about. It's pretty much the god. And all the other gods, little g gods or whatever, are pretty much aspects or characteristics of that one God that they believe. They believe in one God, but they also pay homage to the different characteristics of that one God, which are in different vessels, or I guess you can call them avatars, right? Based on the characteristic or the personality of the big God, the main God, the one God. So Krishna is the one major, they say deity, but God in Hinduism. So, and of course, I'm not speaking from an expert type platform right now. The goal is to get there, so I can share what I've learned in a more easy to follow format. Because right now I'm kind of bouncing around, and I do understand that, and not everyone's attention span is strong enough to stay with me, and I apologize. But yeah, so one thing I do want to purchase in the near future is the 72 names of God. And that's in, I think it's in Hebrew. It may be in Greek, I think. I do want to purchase, that as maybe a pendant or something like that. You know, for security, protection, and things of that nature. Because I mean, I have my crystals and stuff too. But oh, back to air element. I just came across Haitian voodoo in this book, and the symbols and things of that nature. So maybe you were kind of leaning towards the one of the African religions, which is voodoo. So I think that might be where you were kind of leaning towards. Because if you see symbols like that, and I saw quite a few, like symbols like this, you know, I saw a few of those symbols when I was in New Orleans. But as Southern Baptist, Christian, or just Christian in general, symbols like that's associated with Black sub-Saharan people is seen as negative. And what I've learned over the course of about a year or two is that voodoo is a religion, a nature-based religion. Hoodoo, which is Hoodoo, hoodoo, is more like working roots. It's not a religion. It's whatever you have on hand, and you put your intentions into whatever it is. I don't know, it could be a piece of paper, it could be lint, you know, whatever. You put your intentions in it and focus on whatever you're intending to come to pass. And then that's supposed to be hoodoo, also known as, in some places, roots, working roots or whatever. Using the herbs, nature, whatever. But voodoo is an African religion that is seen in many, I would say, Christian circles. Because it seems like when it comes to Christianity, and maybe even Muslim, and I'm just thinking about them two right off the top of my head. There may be others, but they tend to not, how should I put this? They tend to see everything as demonic and not seeing other elements or characteristics of the great, the highest divinity, right? And again, you can be destructive with that particular mindset, ideology, and you could be uplifting. It depends on what you're going to do with it. I've said this before, and I think I've heard someone else say this. They're tools. They should be tools defining yourself or knowing yourself, right? So this is an example that I think most people understand. You use a knife to chop up your food so you can eat, whatever meal that you prepared or someone else prepared. And you're using your knife and your fork and your spoon, you're using your utensils, right, to consume what's good for you. And then sometimes what's not so good for you. But the point is, you can use your utensils in order for you to consume what's nourishing for you, or you can use those tools to be destructive. I just thought about something. You can use a spoon to eat a bowl of soup or stew or vegetable soup or something like that. Or you can use that same spoon to put some kind of substance in it. Put it over an open flame. Take a needle and whatever that was in that spoon, inject it in your veins. And whatever that is, destructive. It was a tool. You can use a needle to inject you with what's going to help you heal, what's going to help you get better. That's not going to make you sick, but it's actually going to help shield you from catching the cold or whatever. Or if you're going overseas and you got to get vaccinations before you go, that's supposed to help you from getting malaria and all these other diseases, right? When you travel abroad, overseas. But that same needle, if it's used in a destructive way, it can bring on destruction. I see different spiritual paths the same way. Some people utilize whatever faith or walk to be destructive. And going back to Indigenous Peoples Day, the main thing that was utilized that had anything to do with a spiritual belief system was Christianity. That was used to almost deactivate the existing spiritual connection that Indigenous people had with their maker. Being in balance with the elements. All right. But then, like many people, they also were molded or broken down. I'm thinking of like initiations, for instance. Let's say a Greek organization. You want to be part of this Greek organization, right? For the benefits on the public aspect of being in this group, the benefits. But you got to go through some stuff in order to get that status that you're looking for. Okay? Just walk with me now. Just walk with me. I'm getting to the point. They have to break your spirit. They have to break you and then build you back up, mold you into a character or personality that is a resemblance, a reflection of what they're about. So when the so-called Jesus followers decided to utilize their belief system to save the savages, right? What they did was they broke down their spirit. And when you break down someone's spirit, and then you build them up, whoever they were once before is there, but it has to be resurrected. It's there, it died, but it must be resurrected. Now, there's many elements of what I've learned over the years that's linked to Christianity that is uplifting, that is empowering, that is yeah, that's what I want to say. That is uplifting, that is empowering. But we can't forget about the elements that were used, the tactics that were used to spread that so-called belief onto indigenous. I'm speaking of indigenous American people right now, but indigenous American people. Their spirit were broken. And so I'm a truth seeker, y'all. I seek truth. I seek and I am finding little by little, right? Little by little, I'm finding. Seek and you shall find. Seek and you shall find. Seek and you shall find. But no one, when they are honestly and genuinely seeking knowledge, trying to find themselves, because when you find yourself, you will find God, okay? You seeking to find and know yourself. And it's been suppressed. It's hard for some people to continue to grow spiritually when whatever they need is not in those four walls that they were brought up in or married into or whatever. And so you got people, especially on YouTube, I see a lot of people that have been shunned from their family and community and all that because they're no longer members of this community or that spiritual community. And it's devastating. It really is devastating. It's heartbreaking. But then once they get past all of that, I'm talking about the person who decided to seek more knowledge, decided to continue to find themselves in order to find God. When they got past all of that community structure of suppressing that spiritual growth, they're a witness. They're a living testimony of doing such. Now, that's where I am right now. I don't desire to limit my education. When I say education, I'm talking on a spiritual level, y'all. Like, I'm so done throwing away money to study at some institution that's not feeding my spirit, that's not feeding my soul. Them days are over. If I am unable to buy it in a book and read it for myself, comprehend it myself, interact with people that's trying to seek the same knowledge of themselves, maybe a different avenue, maybe different, different moments in life. They may be over there, I may be over here. But at the same time, there's, your own pace of learning. That's what I want to invest in. I don't want to invest in an institution that's going to promise the moon and stars and all that for some job that you can't even be yourself. You have to be quiet about everything because you don't want to offend anybody. And then, God forbid, you have a boss that's just as backwards as he or she could ever be. So for me, going through life, this chapter in my life, as far as seeking knowledge, knowing myself, learning about myself, which is a path towards knowing God. And I want to be able to share what I've learned. You may or may not see it as something that you want to learn for your path, and that's fine. But again, I believe that you can learn something to help you raise your vibration and help people along the way so you can balance the scales. That's where I am. That's pretty much where I am. Okay. Let me read some of these comments and then I'm going to go ahead and end this because it's been over 2 hours. I didn't realize it was that long until I just looked at the clock. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So let me go back. Daniel says, I could watch you all day. Ah, thank you. Blessings to you. Thank you so much for your uplifting comment, because not everyone is pleasant on social media. I've had my share of not so pleasant people. So I do appreciate your pleasant feedback, and I appreciate what you have to offer as well. Yeah, Coco, Day of the Dead. Sweet says, I saw the movie. Yeah, I actually saw it on Netflix. When I got Netflix back in March of this year, I heard about Coco and a lot of, okay, let me stop. I knew about the movie, but I really wasn't really interested in Pixar animated type movies. I just was like, oh, that's a kid's movie, whatever. If it's like a Disney movie that I grew up watching and they remade it or something or revamped it, then I will probably go to, the movies. But anyway, I was actually at a sweat. And at this particular sweat lodge or whatever, I've been introduced to several people who are indigenous, but they are from the south of the border. And so more and more of our brothers and sisters south of the border are starting to embrace and recognize the indigenous DNA roots. Okay, this is a big deal, right? They may speak Spanish or whatever, but at the end of the day, their roots are here in the Americas. And yes, that includes United States of America. And they have every right to be here, but whatever. So I remember one of the kids was there and he was talking amongst, another kid there. And they said, oh yeah, Coco was a good movie. Coco was a good movie. So anyway, when I got Netflix, I was like, I think it was Cinco de Mayo or something. I think it was around May. And I don't know where I saw Coco advertised. Somebody said something. But the point is, I was like, let me see if Netflix has it. Of course, Netflix has it. I love Netflix. They don't have everything, but they had Coco. And I decided to watch it. That movie resonated with me. And my mama, with her thing with skulls or whatever, I almost kind of got it. Still, I don't have skulls everywhere, I don't even own a skull, by the way. But I kind of could understand this whole thing about skulls or whatever. Because, like I said before, guys, I am connected to indigenous populations in Mexico. A very strong connection, by the way. In particular, the Tarascan people, also known as the Parapecha people. So maybe the whole Mexican indigenous aspect is in her and is screaming to get out. And I think part of that is the whole skull thing. And the reason why I'm saying skull thing, because you know how some people are like cat people and they have cats everywhere in the house, or duck people, they have ducks, or like frog people. You know how some people just love, to put things around the house and little whatnots or whatever. Well, skulls is my mama's thing. So anyway, when I watched that movie, it resonated with me. It was cute. I loved the soundtrack, or they call it the score, the scores. And then it clicked. And I've actually gone to a couple of things here in the metropolitan area that celebrates the Day of the Dead. But for me, I'm like, okay, it's a bunch of people dressed up like skeletons and painting their face. So it looks like, their face, their mask is a skull, and it's kind of creepy. But yeah, it's whatever, right? But then when I was watching this cute little movie for kids, which was also for grown folks that didn't know any better or didn't know, it actually allowed me to not be so creeped out about it. Now I can look at a skull, it's like, whatever, Coco. Thanks, Coco. I'm good. It's not scary anymore. But yeah, that was a cute movie. And I did shed a tear, 1 or 2 tears. I did shed 1 or 2 tears. Because you don't want the memory or the legacy of a loved one to disappear. And one thing about this movie, the plot, like I mentioned before, is that you don't want to forget your ancestors, because if you forget your ancestors, then they will, their memory will fade away. So, and that's why with the Day of the Dead or whatever, they're paying homage to their ancestors, right? In most cases, they have an ancestral altar, where they have their pictures up and things of that nature, whatever they liked when they were here in the physical, be it cigars, chewing gum, whatever. And then you set up an altar for them, and you're paying your respects because you don't want them to be forgotten, right? And if you think about it, in a lot of the homes that I remember when I was a kid going into family houses, homes, or whatever, there'll be so many pictures of family on the wall. If not a wall, then there'll be a table or something. There's all these pictures and frames. And then me personally, I was like, I would much rather have a painting on the wall, for the decor and all that. But where I come from, which was the norm, was you would have pictures on a fridge of all the family members. You have pictures on shelves, on top of the fireplace. Again, you may have a table full of picture frames of everybody. It's just pictures everywhere, all over the wall. And I'm like saying to myself, really, that's an altar. It may not necessarily be on a table, but you have their pictures. You're able to pay homage in some kind of way, maybe subconsciously, right? I'm thinking about Grandma's room, Auntie Pooh, my sister, Auntie Pooh. I'm thinking about Grandma's room. And you know how we always refer to that as her room. And you always felt comfortable in that room. You always wanted to sleep in that room. Grandma's picture, huge picture of her, I don't know, maybe this big on the wall of my grandma, our grandmother. And that room, in my opinion, now that I look back, that room is almost like an altar. That is her room. I don't care who comes down, family members, when they come home or whatever, they know that is Grandma's room. Now, I, again, never felt comfortable sleeping in the room. And I don't know if part of me was like, that's not my room, so I'm going to stay out of there. That's grandma's room. But again, whenever we talk about that room, we said, that's grandma's room. And years ago, there used to be, yeah, my sister says comforting, you know, whenever she goes in the room. I guess she feels grandma's presence because, you know, the energy or whatever. But once upon a time, her rocking chair was in that room. I don't even know what happened in that rocking chair, but that was her rocking chair, you know. That was grandma's room. So in my opinion, that in of itself is like a room designated for her, almost like an altar. You're bringing homage. You're honoring her, right? Now there's no granddaddy room. Granddaddy, my paternal grandfather, he died in 1975. So I never met him. I did meet my grandma, paternal grandma. So I met her when I was real little. So I remember a little bit about her. But one thing about, again, with the whole altar thing, I think many of us, especially when we don't come from that kind of culture, like the skull, Mexican Day of the Dead type culture, and other cultures as well, we kind of steer clear from being outright about the whole thing. But if you look back and you notice some culture similarities, you know, having the pictures on the walls or having picture frames with the pictures in it, you know, on a table, you know, or you walk by a picture like, hey, grandma, or whatever. You know, some people do that. To me, that's still an altar. It just may not be decked out like some cultures' altars. But for me personally, that's an altar. But anyway, let's see. Let me read a few more comments. And seriously, guys, I have to go because I really have to go to the bathroom. I got to pee and I haven't eaten yet. And I always end my videos talking about food because it's kind of late. But anyway, I'm actually excited because my sister is watching my first live, or this is her first time watching me live on my channel. I don't even know if you've seen my other videos, Auntie Pooh, but yeah, I'm glad that you tune in. Again, guys, my sister, her YouTube channel is Auntie Pooh and Sade, and go check them out. And again, she's new to this, so it'll be some time when she's at a point where her videos are very professional. But yeah, check her out and all that jazz. Okay, so air element, real quick before I end. You said, agreed, Africa was not the only continent that had Black people. Every region, continent in the world was originally inhabited by Black melanated people. Okay, yeah, I can agree with that. Oh, I can definitely agree with that. Not necessarily from Africa Black, but you do have dark melanated people throughout the world, originally throughout the world. I'm thinking of the Aboriginals from Australia right now. That's what I'm kind of thinking about right now. And apparently the Aboriginals in Australia having, I don't know, with the DNA matching and all that stuff, apparently they are not stemmed from Africa. They are actually original people from Australia, like straight up. They happen to have dark skin. Some of their phenotype is similar to some African populations, right? But they have this really straight, almost reddish hair. So there's different elements or different phenotypes between them and sub-Saharan Africans. But at the same time, I honestly believe there are darker melanated skinned people throughout the world, not just Africa. I do believe that a lot of people did come from Africa and branched out, but I don't think everybody with dark skin actually came from the continent of Africa. That's just my thing. Thanks, Air Element, for that. Sweet says, you are right about people all over the world. Thank you. Air Element says, Australian Aborigines are not African. Pretty much said what I just said. Melanesians are their own people. Okay. Same thing with us, Indigenous Americans, and everywhere else. Sweet says, you are rough, too dark skinned people. I don't know what that means. Air Element says, to Sweet, yes, the dark skinned Aboriginal people. Okay, so y'all two are going back and forth. Air Element says, try mentioning symbolism, Voodooism, etc. around Black people. Okay, so you pretty much were getting at the voodoo thing. Okay, around Black people, and see how they reply. They'll tell you it's witchcraft, devil worshiping. White people created it when it's a part of Black spirituality. Yeah. Yeah. I hear you, Air Element, about the voodoo thing. And even though I'm not on that bandwagon, but there's elements of that particular belief system, among others, that I understand for me. When I went, again, I keep mentioning New Orleans, but there's a culture there that they do embrace publicly the voodoo religion. My sisters and I, we went into this one voodoo shop or whatever at the end of a tour, a walking tour, and we went back because we were interested. And there was really nothing in that store that pulled me in as far as me wanting to take a piece of that with me, right? However, they have altars set up in this one particular shop. They have altars set up where people can leave gifts or offerings for particular African gods, right? Orishas, if I said that correctly. And I'm kind of reading I'm reading about each god or goddess and what they represent and everything. But for whatever reason, I was drawn over to the altar where it says Yemaya. For whatever reason, I was just drawn to Yemaya. Wasn't really familiar with this particular goddess, but I was drawn to her, right? And I stood over there for about 5 minutes, and I was kind of reading information about her because they had this card where you can read about what she symbolizes and things of that nature. And I say all of this because before that trip, and I think I mentioned, I did mention this dream in one of my other videos, but in one of the dreams I had, it was about a tidal wave that did not crash on a beach. The majority of people on the beach were people of color. There was a big, almost like a big mama type of character in my dream that did not speak. She was on the beach, almost like she had this apron on in a kitchen kind of setup, but this was on the beach. And I telepathically, I communicated with her. I said, where are the children? Where are the children? And she lifted up, there was a curtain underneath wherever she was preparing. I guess she was preparing a meal. She lifted up and all the kids, melanated kids, by the way, y'all, okay, dark-skinned kids, were underneath this counter. And then she put the curtain down and she looked at me and she gave me the look like, they're okay, you don't have to worry about them, whatever like that. And then I woke up. Well, back to Yemaya. When I was at that shop in New Orleans, that voodoo shop, and I stood there and I read up on her, I said, okay, that's interesting. And I left. we went back again to the same shop the next day or 2 days later. Again, there was nothing in there that gravitated to me or whatever that I wanted to take with me. But yet again, I walked around all the altars that were set up. And once again, Yemaya altar caught my attention. I found out later about the characteristics of this goddess. She's a protector of children. Her element is water. She is the mother of water or the ocean, the creatures in the ocean or whatever. Okay, water. And then it clicked. I was like, did I have a dream about this Orisha? I had no clue. Go down to New Orleans, stood in front of her altar, and still didn't have a clue. So out of all of the African Orishas or whatever, that's one particular Orisha that I'm intrigued by. Not necessarily following her or anything like that, but it is intriguing because she rules the water. And there's a reason why I had dreams like that. And again, this woman, dark-skinned woman, looking after children. And then I found out later, months later, after the trip with my sisters, right, that the Orisha Yemaya was a protector of children and the mother of the sea or whatever. So I was like, interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so Sweet says, so did you stop going to church? As of right now, I have yet to attend a worship service at a church. I was at a church on Saturday, but that was just a gathering place for the Rage Against the War Machine summit. So they were using that facility or that church. It was an Episcopalian, if I'm saying that correctly, it was an Episcopalian church. But I haven't been in a church worshiping with other believers as far as Christianity in quite some time. I've attended probably, let me see, was it 2012? Yeah, it was 2012. The fall of 2012, I think, was the last time I went to worship. Now I've gone to funerals, that have been in churches and things of that nature. Then I was leaning towards Messianic Jewish, Messianic congregation. So I went to a few of those. And I have nothing but respect for that aspect of my walk. But as of right now, most of what I do is internal. And I'm thankful that I've met quite a few people that are like-minded, like myself, that are seeking truth, that refuse to limit their spiritual growth. And so I definitely am thankful for discernment and wisdom and all of that stuff, because that's what's helping me take what I need and leave the rest. Gather up a couple of things over here, discard the rest. So I can continue to be focused on, again, seeking truth, finding myself, which in turn will guide me to finding highest divinity, God, and not to get distracted by the limitations that many of us have been, unfortunately, conditioned to stay in that position. So that's my answer for you, Sweet, and anybody else that's actually wondering. Let's just put it this way. I believe in Yeshua, also known as Jesus, also known as Emmanuel, right? I believe in those teachings. I believe that Yeshua was a master teacher, is a master teacher. And that was part of my foundation, my spiritual walk. That was my foundation. And I'm building, right? I'm building on that. There are clues within scripture, as far as the Bible, that many of us have yet to discover. Because we're only reading on surfacey, right? Versus digging in and decoding the messages that were given to us. Because there's knowledge out there that was suppressed from us that would have been in the Bible, right? But it was removed. Then you ask yourself, why was that removed? What is it that was so devastating that the general public was unable to be exposed to? You sit back and you think about that thing. And you wonder, there's a reason why we were not given all the information. And one thing that Yeshua said was, seek and ye shall find. Seek it. Last time I checked, seeking it's not going to just be laid out right in the open for you to find it. It doesn't work that way. You have to look. And in many cases, when you don't have it handed to you, some people stop looking, seeking, searching, and they just take whatever's given to them. But Yeshua says, seek, ye shall find. Fear not. I don't know how many times Yeshua in the Bible said, fear not. Fear not, fear not, fear not. And many of the platforms that are in place today, as far as religion or whatever, is based on fear. It's based on fear. And fear is what controls societies. And what is that they say? They say we all will experience, what is it called? The dark night of the soul. Dark night of the soul. And let me make sure So, okay, I'm just looking at something real quick here, just Googling it. It says, the dark night of the soul is a painful process that heralds change, transformation, ultimately embodiment of the divine. So, if there's no friction going on with your walk, something is not quite right. Everybody apparently is going to experience a dark night of the soul. Another explanation, it says, a period of spiritual desolation, almost like a desert, suffered by a mystic in which all sense of consolation is removed. So sometimes people hang out with folks because maybe they were brought up that way. It was tradition. What would my family think? What would my friends think? What would this person think? And if they walk through that in order to seek more knowledge, they're going to experience the dark night of the soul. They're going to feel alone and what have you. So that's where I am, sweet. Let's see. Air Element says most Black people are brainwashed by religion, and white people practice our people's symbolism, divination, etc., which is not evil at all, but Black people still refuse to research the truth. I hear you, Air Element. I do hear you. I do. It's the brain. It's the conditioning. It's the conditioning. It really is. It's the conditioning. It's the conditioning. It really is. If there is an image or something that has been placed over here and you've been conditioned, taught, what have you, to avoid that. And then there's that fear, like, you know, if I go over there, then I'm lost, right? The unknown. The unknown. But what? What will happen? It's the unknown. Sometimes you have to explore the unknown to find yourself, to lead you to highest divinity, also known as God, Creator. You know, we are all part of God, the Creator. We're elements of God. We're personalities of God. Many people do believe, and we've been taught this as Christians, greater is He than he that's in the world. And I could be not quoting it quite right, but we're talking about the Holy Spirit, right? That dwells in us. But that was the end of that, right? With the Christianity aspect of it. That was it. That was the end of that conversation, you know? But yeah, in you are part of the highest divinity, God. You're not, like, as Christians, we were taught to see God as over there, and we're all the way over here, and we're not connected, right? So again, it's the conditioning air element. It really is. And as a grown woman, there are things that just does not resonate with me. And I'm sure part of that is because of the conditioning that I grew up being exposed to. And now as an adult, I see elements of whatever that was that makes sense to me, that's helping me put the pieces together, that help me find myself. But I may not call it what I was taught that was, I would say, low vibrational, right? So I may call it something else. Same thing, but I may call it something else because within me, if I call it that, it's associated with something negative. You understand what I'm saying? Something low vibrational. So I may say, you know, the same thing, but it's you know how a word, when you think of it, it brings up something negative, right? So some people may say, oh, I would prefer the word such and such, right? And that word is just it's an analogy. It's an analogy, not an analogy. It's a synonym of the same word. It means the same thing, but with the upbringing and how that particular word was used, you kind of don't want to associate that word based on what you were taught, because it triggers something. So instead of using that word, then you just use another word. For instance, voodoo, what's the word I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of earth-based. Yeah, that's the word. Earth-based religion. That's what I'm saying. That doesn't sound as scary, right? Oh, it's an earth-based religion versus saying voodoo. Earth-based, voodoo. Earth-based, voodoo. Again, the word voodoo, if I'm not mistaken, it means God or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Like the authentic definition of the actual word. Something about God, right? But from our conditioning as far as Christians or whatever, that word versus saying earth-based. Earth-based is not, in my opinion, earth-based religion is less frightening or whatever. And that's something I would need to work on, just like everybody else. You got to work on it, and not to be fearful of something just because it's different. But again, if something doesn't resonate with me, I acknowledge what I just learned. I acknowledge that I'm understanding what this person or this group of people believe in, and I keep it moving. Let's see. And then, if you think about the Pope or whatever, there's so much symbolism in different worship practices and stuff. And then if you kind of look further back to more ancient practices, it's very similar. And then you wonder where they got that from. They got it from ancient belief systems, and then tweaked it or whatever and made it their own. Sweet says, do you do you and continue teaching and sharing this knowledge to me and others. Oh, thank you, Sweet. But again, I say seek truth for yourself. Whatever avenue you choose at this particular part of your life, just keep going, keep moving, keep going. Don't be idle, keep going, right? Don't be stagnant. Keep learning. And maybe this right here was working, now it ain't working because you've outgrown it. It's time to find something else where you can study and understand and learn. And again, if it don't resonate for you, it's either not for you or you're just not ready for it yet. And there's plenty of things I've come across. I'm like, not today. And maybe it's never going to be for me, right? But I just say all of this, guys, because keep growing. Keep growing. The goal is to be balanced and to raise your vibrations, as I keep saying, raising your frequency. So your soul will eventually go up to as high as it could possibly go up in the dimensions. And so as, when you learn as a kid, at least my background, you had heaven or hell. You die, you either go to heaven or hell, right? There was no levels of heaven or levels of hell. Now with heaven, there was this level where if you were cookie cutter, squeaky clean, didn't do nothing wrong apparently, then you stayed in the mansions and streets of gold and all that. If you barely got in to heaven, you stayed on the outskirts of where the mansions are, whatever. You're still in heaven though, but you're almost like assistants of those saints that are living in the mansions. I mean, that's one thing that I learned when I was studying as a Pentecostal Christian. So my sister Auntie Pooh says, laugh out loud, yep. Comforting, yep. You must be talking about grandma's room. I gotta go to work, thanks. Okay. Then she said, yes, true that, true that. She's still there. True, true, preach. Air Element says, I'm assuming that you was referring to me when you went off a bit earlier. With that being said, okay. No, I didn't go off on you, Air Element. But if you took it that way, I am, how should I put this? I am on a path right now that whatever resonates with me, that's the direction I'm going in. Whatever resonates with you may not necessarily be the direction that I'm going in. And it's okay. So if you ever do come back to my channel, you are welcome. And I definitely want to learn as much as I can about different belief systems. But again, just because I'm not necessarily on the exact same path as you possibly may be, I'm not necessarily counting you or your thoughts out of this conversation, right? Your thoughts, your communication, your interaction is just as important as the next person. So hopefully you'll understand where I'm coming from. If not, that's fine too. But I thank you for your interaction, okay? Sweet says, so have I, it's been a while since I attend church, but I do miss it. Okay, Sweet. I miss worshiping with other people in a congregation kind of setting. Because a lot of the like-minded people that I am connected with, we're scattered all over the place. And most of the time it's on social media, right? Most of the time. So coming together and worshiping or whatever together, being aligned together in the physical in one place, I do miss that. I do miss that. And I remember moments of the spirit of the Most High, or again, highest divinity, whatever label you want to put on it. It was silence. And the pastor literally said that he had a sermon already typed out and he was prepared. He was prepared to give that sermon. And then just that wave came in there and he couldn't speak. And for a good hour and some change, maybe like 90 minutes or so, we just bathed in that energy that was in there. And people that have the gift of sight and things of that nature, later on, they did share with the rest of us what they saw. And to me, that's real. To me, that is real. You cannot keep a powerful energy like that between four walls. And to put a label or a name, singular, on this great, powerful everything, it just does not make sense to me. But in that moment, the pastor could not speak. We gave honor to that energy that took over the planned sermon. Now that's the kind of worship I'm talking about. That right there is what I'm talking about. It was beautiful. It really was. It was beautiful. Unfortunately, I didn't experience many of those types of experiences, because a lot of times when you go to some of these programs and services and stuff, it's so many distractions for things that don't really matter. Sometimes you just don't you don't get the full experience, versus if you are around like-minded people, and or you become centered and you become present and you listen, aka meditation. And then Sweet says, I came out of Pentecostal church. Yeah. Again, for those who have been following me, you probably saw my video about leaving the church I was attending in October or September of 2012. And that took a lot to do, because that was my home for a minute spiritually. And I guess I outgrew it. There were signs and symbols everywhere that it was time to go. And, you know, my feelings had to get hurt for me to continue my spiritual growth. Let's just put it that way. But anyway, thanks guys so much for watching. I appreciate your time. For those who agree or disagree, what have you, thank you so much for contributing. Thank you for interacting. Let's continue to have this dialogue. I ask that you continue to be respectful and things of that nature. You're welcome to return if you choose to. If not, then maybe we will interact in another life. But until next time, guys, be blessed. Be a blessing to others. And I'll be seeing you again. Take care. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day.